Sport is so deeply woven into our world that the experience of mediated sport allows us to discover and share the stories of people we ordinarily wouldn't know of. Take the story of Lauryn Hill, a 19-year-old college basketball player diagnosed with an inoperable brain tumor. After her diagnosis, Hill was told she had less than 2 years to live, and she dedicated the rest of her life to raising money and awareness to cancer research. And she chose to express this not at a press conference podium or in an open letter, but on a basketball court. A student athlete of Division III Mount St. Joseph, one of Hill's goals before the tumor would eventually take her life was to score a basket for her team. Hill's story became so notable that the NCAA rescheduled the team's games to start weeks earlier in order to allow Hill a chance to play because of her deteriorating condition. Xavier University stepped up and offered their stadium of 10,000 seats just to accommodate the demand for attendance to see Hill play.
And a 5'11" freshman, forward from Greendale, Indiana, number 22, Lauryn Hill.
The ball goes down to Lauryn Hill, and the layup is good. A layup for Lauryn. And number 22, we will remember that layup forever.
After the game, Hill told reporters, quote, "It's a dream come true, to play on a college court, to put my foot down on the floor and hear the roar of the crowd. I just love it so much. I just love basketball." Hill died on April 10, 2015. However, before her battle was lost to cancer, she was able to score multiple points for her team and society, both instigated on a basketball court. On Monday, April 13th, the ceremony was held in the Xavier Gym, the place where Hill's layup connected her to the watching world. Her casket was placed under the basket where she scored her only points, her game uniform draped on top of her casket. Shot clocks set to 22 seconds, representing her jersey number, 22. The story of Hill is just one of the more recent examples of sports supremacy as a source of social and individual empowerment. Chicago Bulls star Derrick Rose wore a t-shirt pregame saying, "I can't breathe," in response to the killing of Eric Garner, a man choked to death by the New York police. And the riots in Baltimore over the murder of Freddie Gray have postponed several games for their Orioles teams and gives fans a space to speak their minds. All of these represent instances of leagues, teams, and players making conscious efforts to acknowledge the consumers for which they play. Therefore, by studying the active participation of sports spectators, new information will be added to the media psychology discipline that highlights the variables within sports communication and the influence it has on identity and social cognition through old and new media usage. The value of sport is not found in the box score or in the trade rumors or on a stat line in the sports page. The value is in the experience. It's understood within the industry, sports insiders and fanatics, that the experience is greater than the game itself. But why? How is that possible? The answer is found in what I believe to be an intertextual, new narrative user experience. And through this exchange, sport has become a site for identity authentication and a mediated lens to reflect society. The new narrative user exchange in today's sport industry has two contexts, event narrative and a consumer personal narrative. Under the event lies the natural sport narrative, game mythology, David versus Goliath, franchise history, good versus evil, and the athletes as characters themselves, a role many pros happily play as a way to brand themselves and to gain extra earnings outside of the sport. Then there's the consumer personal narrative. This is where the content is rendered as authentic or phony based on the level of personalization the medium, event, and text enables. To understand the sport experience, one first has to consider sport as its own entity and position it away from the actual game or event context. As technology advances, so are the ways in which consumers can enhance their emotional connection to the sport or team or athlete. Through the industry's adoption of new narrative experiences, fans are now in the center of the sport infrastructure, providing a space for fans to have a personalized, user-generated experience with the content that is deemed relevant, valuable, and authentic to their identity. To begin to understand this process, we first must look at the discourse of mediated sport. French social theorist Michel Foucault set the foundation for understanding how systems of meanings are transcribed. He argued that discourses emerge and transform not according to a developing series of unarticulated common worldviews, but according to a vast and complex set of discursive and institutional relationships, which are defined as much by breaks and ruptures as by unified themes. Discourse analysis allows you to focus not on the signs or statements, but rather on the actual context, systems, and spaces where power and value is ascribed to particular events, texts, or objects through the recognition of repeated behavioral patterns. Mediated sport is intertextual before anything else, an entity where the accumulation of meaning is spread across a number of different texts and images. Sport has been a leader in maturing the digital media and telecommunication market and is central to the structure and function of communication technology. Sport is embedded in visual culture and society. Live event, game operations, live streaming, web content, branding, augmented reality, the combination of traditional and new, sport maintains its imprint. According to TechCrunch, in 2014, venture capital spent $1 billion in sport-related startups, including everything from fan engagement, smart venues, sport performance, virtual reality season tickets. All brands have recognized that they need to form digital connections to their consumers in order to remain relevant, and sport is the perfect source for getting eyeballs because of its global popularity. As an interactive site born from a media convergence culture, Mediated Sport supplies consumers, regardless of their level of emotional affiliation, the platforms, devices, and spaces to have a richer identity through A, a two-way exchange of information, B, the events to satisfy interpersonal and social group requirements, and C, the power to operate which medium to use that best suits their affiliated needs. Social media in sport has grown so much that majority of every major organization has their own official accounts. The National Basketball Association, for example, has adopted Twitter as their go-to platform for engagement. And this is shown by the league embroidering their own Twitter handle on the official game ball. In positioning the sport brand, advertisers and platform developers focus no longer on consumer needs. Now they look at consumer behavior as an indicator and gauge to determine what they're going to want. Research from Synergy and Baltimore University show that Twitter has become the leading social media platform for sport fans, with 51% of massive sports fans using Twitter at least once a day. Results also show that 72% of male massive fans spend their social media time on sports-related content, and 60% of all Twitter content is sports-related. Another example is seen in DeskSite, a sports tech startup established in 2014 that already has over 25 teams across the NFL, NBA, and NHL. Essentially acting as a DVR for the internet, DeskSite serves as a personalized video recorder and content library for any team or player a fan may want to follow. It's important to note that DeskSite offers fans everything they want and everything they don't want, because the content is 100% personalized. This shows a shift in industrial focus where content curation and access is now geared toward user-generated experiences. It's no coincidence that sport organizations continue to use social media, big data, and immersive technology as a stethoscope to keep a pulse on society.
My 54, say no.
Have you ever wanted to know what it's like to be a quarterback? The sight, sound, and rush of intensity? The sport industry is using new technology to give you that complete immersive sensory experience. And as a result, consumer empowerment is born. Using Henry Tajfeld's social identity and intergroup relations as a theoretical framework, interfacing with others can work to boost self-esteem. And applying that in today's media-saturated age, social media can also foster a stronger personal and social identity. Fans aren't just absorbing, they're publishing. Consumers have become the producers. The significant presence of sport fans on social media indicates a behavioral urge pattern of wanting to continually consume and share content within this sport discourse. As a result, Twitter has steadily made updates to their mobile and web accessibility to permit this kind of richer experience. These updates include the integration of video, retweeting with comments, and particularly the embedding of Vine, this other social media platform where you can post and share 6-second videos. For sport fans, I came up with the term twine, that is, the combined use of Twitter and Vine. Twining makes fans the producer of their own SportsCenter show, complete with the highlights that they want to see and the plays that are significant to their viewing experience. This two-way exchange of information is illustrated through Henry Jenkins' concept of participatory culture. In it, we see that the importance of media does not rest in the technology that produces it. Rather, it is in the empowerment bestowed on consumers through their participation and connectivity. New media gives identified sport fans the chance to have a new experience each and every time they engage with the platform. As sport and cultural researchers Eileen Kennedy and Laura Hill stated, with traditional media, while you can interpret them in many ways, what you see is basically what you get. With new media, on the other hand, each user can see a different thing, depending on the route he or she navigates through a website or the multimedia components he or she chooses to play with. Looking at this from a content curator perspective, digital is not meant to replace the traditional, but rather complement it with a personalized user experience. The live game or event will always be the centerpiece, but the experience surrounding it is where the heart is, and that is enhanced by what is considered shoulder programming. Now, the head is the actual event, the mind behind the experience. The shoulder programming is the second screen content that is built solely to sustain the value of the live event by making it personal to the consumer. Pre-game, post-game, behind the scenes, feature stories, fan-produced content. This is all second screen material that works in tandem with the primary viewing screen, the television. This transition from passive consumer to powerful producer in mediated sport also has a significant role in collective action and how sport has multiple meanings for different people. For some, the weight of the sport experience lies heavy on their psychological well-being. Dr. Daniel Wan, head of the Sport Fandom Research Center at Murray State University, developed a team identification social psychological health model as a theoretical guide to account for the positive relationship between local sport team affiliation and high self-esteem. His research shows that, quote, team identification facilitates well-being by increasing social connections for the fan. That is, it provides psychological support and consequently result in a more mentally healthy individual, e.g., lower rates of depression, anxiety, loneliness, and the like. The experience for highly affiliated sport fans exists 365 days a year and is recognizable through the language of we and they within the discourse, as in it's we when the team wins and they when the team lost, showing identity ownership and separation based on the result of a game. Authenticity becomes key. Viewing, sharing, and creating content under the official logo of your favorite team adds value. I've illustrated a model to show the varying ways fans consume sports, high game and low game investment. High game superfans see their sport or team as part of who they are and see other fans as part of the community to which they belong. But what emotionally do these high game invested fans get out of spending their time, money, and dedication into something they have no control over? The answer is an enriched identity where their investment may not alter the score directly, but it does validate and satisfy their personal identity. A sport audience that is comprised of people who are not sport fans nor have an emotional tie to the game are considered to have a low game investment. However, it's proven that they still make a large part of the sport audience. Being a fan is a way to achieve group membership and a collective identity that can feed into your individual identity. Live sports provides a continuous, visual excuse to gather large groups of people together, whether you're fans or not. The Olympic Games, the World Series, the World Cup, these are all very highly experiential events. For example, on February 1st of 2015, Super Bowl 49 generated the largest television viewing audience in history with 114.4 million viewers. Another 1.3 million watched the game online via NBC streaming, and some other 28.4 million tweets were made about the event, making it the largest streamed and tweeted about Super Bowl in history. So what exactly is the motive for a non-sports fan to watch sports? The answer is found in what sport supplies their identity. To those with a low game investment, sport is more of a site for interpersonal requirements, a social environment enhancer, and a means to gain group membership. Some women deliberately watch sport as a way just to bond with their boyfriend or husband. And have you ever noticed that during certain sport seasons, Grocery stores start to push pre-made party dishes like 7-layer dip to the front of the store, cupcakes with little orange basketballs made of frosting on top during March, or that deli plate of meat and cheese on a green platter designed to look like a football field every Sunday in the fall. This happens because people have parties around sport events. Sports media pushes people together, fans or not. And for those beginning with a low game investment, their affiliation to sport and personal well-being both increase simply by engaging with those who are more affiliated. Given the popularity of sport, it is easy to understand how sports, athletes and fans combined, can impact a larger society. As explained by political sports writer Dave Zirin, there is a reason we associate people like Jackie Robinson with the Civil Rights Movement, Muhammad Ali with the 1960s, Billie Jean King with the women's movement, or 1968 Olympian Tom Waddle, the founder of the Gay Games, with LGBT rights. This history indicates that sport is never just a spectacle, that it has the potential to tap into sentiments for social change. If media psychology is the discipline to understand the psychological impact of human interaction with technology, then the area of sport deserves to be included in this conversation for the place it holds in uniting global audiences through a universal language of competition and interaction. Under this discipline, discourse analysis of sport provides a rich opportunity to explore the different ways fans consume and create content for reasons beyond the game. Mediated sport enables the consumer, regardless of game investment level, an opportunity to immerse themselves in multiple forms of content. Media, devices, branded strategies, all of these offer both the corporate and personal sectors of sport the room to grow. The sport experience breathes through the interactive nature in which people can nurture their personal narrative, ripen their intergroup status, or root their political beliefs. So, what is the cognitive influence of sport on the identity of its consumers? Where do sport consumers place the most value in an experience? Or what are the psychological components of authenticity? All of these are questions within the sport experience. And in exploring this phenomenon, I want to reveal new information that is useful in illustrating that sports' roots in society are continually strengthened by the advent of new technology, and the subsequent experience of sport as a result of it is amplified.